but my question about Dembele and Sevilla is how can we criticize Dembele in the way that he was criticized, at least online, where I know people are going to hate Dembele no matter what he does because they're just finished with him because it's been 5 years. But I mean, it's hard to stomach. Yet, if not for Araujo, Dembele in a match between Sevilla, who is second place team in the Liga, and Barcelona, Dembele was the best player in that match alongside Araujo. And so, how can people be so angry with Dembele when I mean, you can give a counter argument, but I have the stats for you. It's not only the assist, but he was perfect 3 for 3 on long balls, created 5 chances, 4 key passes, 5 shots, 4 ball recoveries. And I know I said that pretty quick, but Dembele did exactly what he was supposed to do in his second straight match. He was terrible against Osasuna, and I was pretty clear with that. I mean, he was bad, and he knew it, and Xavi knew it, and everybody knew it, and you could see the frustration. But just like against Elche, he was good. He was the impact player. He was the one who was going to shift the balance. If that ball goes in and doesn't hit the post, that was the moment of the match because all those people that were yelling about how bad Dembele was, they don't say anything if that ball goes in. And I know it's a big thing about if, and you're right. We're talking about results. We're talking about goals. We're talking about 3 points or 1 point. But for Dembele, I don't understand how those few inches, and this is the whole point, that I don't understand how those few inches on that ball hitting the post are the difference between him being him being bad and him being the man of the match. Because, he was fine. He was good. He was doing what he was asked to do. And even the criticism about the 0 goals in 8 matches. I mean, that's not what he's being asked to do. He's being asked to create chances, and he created 5 chances, 4 key passes. So, I'll give it to you because I do have the issue, like the big number that needs to change that I omitted on purpose so that I could set you up for this. But please fall into my trap, Rafa, please.
No, the thing is with Dembele, I think he's like pickles on a hamburger. Like either you love it or you don't. There's no in between. And to me, I think I've been critical of Dembele when I think I should have been, and very positive when I think I should have been. And in my opinion, he didn't have such a good first half, but to me, he was really, really good during the second half. Whether you want to attribute, in my opinion, that he didn't have a good first half, like I said, during the first half, it was pouring. So, and it wasn't just like the pitch, the grass was like it had a little bit of water. Like it was pouring. So for a speedy dribbler like Dembele, it was a little bit harder because like there's patches of water, so the ball gets stuck in it. It's a little bit more difficult. Plus, he was literally, it was 2-on-1. Every time he got the ball on the flank, he was being covered by 2 people. So I think that honestly, I think the rain and how the pitch was played a little bit part of it during the first half. During the second half, it wasn't raining as much, and I think we saw more fluid Dembele. And by far, he was. And that's the thing with Dembele. He's just anarchy. And again, that's why I made a face when you said about the crosses. I think out of 10 crosses, 7 for the most part are horrible. But then 3 of them are amazing pinpoint how they should be, and they end up with a goal, being the recipient of a goal. So it's just Dembele is an acquired taste, like I said. So it's just hard to judge Dembele because there's so many outside factors like him, quote unquote, coming in to replace Neymar, which it's blasphemy, and his injuries and blah, blah, blah. And I think that shaped people's opinion on him, that we're saying that if you never liked Dembele, if you were a very pro Neymar and you're just mad that Neymar left and Dembele came in and then you had all the injuries and whatnot, then you're going to use any of the cons that he clearly has because he's not perfect. He's very raw still, and you're going to criticize him and you're not going to like him. But if you see the potential in him, you do agree that he's still raw. The concept of how Xavi wants a winger to play, it's obvious that Dembele doesn't know that yet. Whether he stays at Barcelona and eventually learns remains to be seen. But if you want to be positive, you just see it's a diamond in the rough. And you just think of the possibilities that if he stays, I know there's a bunch of big ifs. If he stays and he stays healthy, the possibility of what Xavi could turn him into, it's mouth-watering. So I get everybody. If you want to see the negative side, I completely understand. And if you want to see the positive side, there's a very, very, very high ceiling with him. It's just it is what it is.
I think I'm trying to talk about Dembele in a more nuanced approach where I think when we talk about the likes of PK and not really even Busquets, but just like PK or even Ter Stegen, where because we've seen them play, Ter Stegen's played 200 times for Barcelona or something like that, or
300. I think that was his 300.
Yeah, he just did 300, right? So Ter Stegen's. We've seen him 300 times before, and so just like with PK, what PK is and is a culmination of all of the years prior to, and it's culminating in the player that we know. So it takes a lot for us to, well, for PK in particular, it takes for a lot of good things for him to do for us to say, oh, he's back to his best. And it takes a lot of wrong for us to say, oh, I'm saying sensible people. Of course, there are people who are knee jerking every minute, but for PK, he has to have a sustained amount of time before we go, oh, he's in a slump here. Even Ter Stegen, this was the first time I think where you're seeing sensible people say he is not his best. This is the worst Ter Stegen has been in years, right? In his 300 appearances, we've now seen, 5 of it. He's had really, really bad matches. The big ones, Roma, Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. But Ter Stegen's in a run of form that's not great for him in comparison to those 300 games. And I think when we do that for the older players, that's one thing. And then for Ferran Choukla, who's made 2 appearances, I'm going, okay, how did those two compare against each other, right? And then with Abde, who's been around for a month, I go, okay, what is this match in comparison to the other ones, right? On average, Abde has 6.7 successful dribbles over per 90, which is best for all U21 players. But that's still only a month of data. So let's see what Abde is over the course of a year or two. Same thing with Gabi, where Gabi last match, like he's playing as a false 9, and same thing with this one, and he's changing his positions. And Nico this year he started in bad form, then he got in great form, and now he's on the bench coming off and still in good form as a bench player. So he's played 3 different ways, if you will, or had 3 different runs of form just this year. And Nico's making his first season with the first team. So I'm comparing each game as a new breath of fresh air for these young players. Dembele at 24 is seen as this old player. And it's useful to me to say, look at what he did against Osasuna. That as a monolithic game was bad. And here's why it was bad. Why when Dembele didn't make sense. But Dembele, I continue to try to do this because I want Barcelona to win. I want Barcelona to be successful. I want Dembele to be successful. And I think if you have that desire, then you can say, okay, yes, I understand his cons. And here's when his cons hurt Barcelona in a game like Osasuna. And then a game like today where he lost the ball 25 times. And here's the big number I was mentioning. Even today, when he was arguably the man of the match, he did lose the ball 25 times, many of which were not in position to hurt Barca because he's being asked to do so many things. So of those 25 times he lost the ball, the five of the times he didn't, he created big chances for Barcelona. Well, not actual, big chances with the actual italicized, but he did create 5 chances. And 4 of the times out of the 29 times he had the ball, 4 of those were key passes, and then he lost at 25. Obviously, he had more touches than that. But the number that we want him to get to, and I do a lot of basketball work, and so turnovers is the thing that coaches, every time I interview a basketball coach, the first thing they come over to, they look at their thing, even in a win or a loss. They look at their turnovers, and if it's between whatever the coach wants, if they're an up-tempo team, it's got to be between 15 and 20 at the level that I work with. But if they're a slow team and they turn it over 20 times, then the coach is coming over, and that's the first thing they're going to say, win or lose. For Dembele, we need that number to be closer between 11 and 15. When you look at Sterling, Leroy Sané, Kingsley Coman, when you look at Dembele's contemporaries, and the way that Barcelona puts so much pressure on him is a big part of this too. I think that number immediately goes down when Ansu Fati is on the field because Ansu's turning it over, right? Like Ansu, we want him to turn it over 11 to 15 times. No, you don't want that, but you expect him to create as many chances as Fati will. We expect him to turn the ball over between 11 and 15 times. And if Dembele, who's getting less touches, is also turning it over 11 to 15 times, then that's a good balance. And that probably means that Barca have created enough chances for them to win the game. And they've also held on to the ball enough where they're not exposing their defense. So for Dembele, I think just like with Frankie de Jong, under Xavi, I think Dembele is a work in progress. And if he renews, I am not really going to have a referendum on neither of the 24-year-olds until next season. I think it's fair to say next season for them because they'll be 25.
Thank you so much for mentioning, because we seem to forget that the potential of Ansu Fati on the left, Dembele on the right, we haven't seen that. And that was a big what if of Barcelona this season that sadly we haven't gotten to see because Ansu came back and got injured and hasn't, and then Dembele came back after. But for whatever reason, we haven't been able to see that. So when hopefully, when Ansu Fati is back, they're both fit, starting with Pedri as well, because that's going to take a lot of load of Dembele because for good or bad, he's being asked because we need him to right now because of the situation to basically be our offense right now. So he needs to do more things in spots that maybe Xavi would want him to like right now. And I think Xavi even mentioned that during the post-game presser that there's certain situations, he didn't say any names, but I think Dembele could fit into what he was saying, that there's many instances, and again, Abde could very well fit that, what Xavi was saying, that there was many spots where say like the Barcelona player going up against Sevilla's defense, there were like 3 Sevilla players. There's spots where to take on players and there's spots when not to. If you see that you got 3 players in front of you, maybe the best option is to switch play to the other flank to try and find that quick space. And Xavi mentioned that. So I think if you think about it, that very might well apply to the 2 wingers. So when Dembele also hopefully learns how to do that, when Ansu Fati is back, that takes a lot of pressure out of Dembele because that way, teams, you got to pick your poison. You can't double team Ansu Fati and Dembele, and on top of that, worry about the middle of the pitch with Gavi, Frenkie, Nico, Pedri, Busquets, whoever ends up playing. You got to pick your poison. And that, when hopefully everybody's fit, and then let's say if a Cavani comes, you got a real forward up top. If Ferran comes, wherever he ends up playing, opposing teams have it a little bit easier right now. But hopefully when everybody's back, opposing teams will have to pick their poison. And when they choose one, hopefully Barca will be able to punish them.
Yeah, and tactically, that's the big difference between Fati and Abde. That Abde, in a vacuum, is playing well for what he's being asked to do, and the opposition isn't really double-teaming him very often. Occasionally, it was in the second half, I think, of Osasuna, when he was double-teamed. Yeah, he was. He scored the goal, and they started to double him in the second half. But usually, just like today against Sevilla, teams are generally not doubling him in a way that Ansu is automatically doubled. And Dembele commands the same respect. And so you're right that it becomes a numbers game. And Xavi's whole system, his whole belief is about numerical advantages. And so you mentioned that the Dembele today, why another reason I say he was good, he was 3 for 3 on those balls that were switched over. He made the decision correctly. And then he also hit the pass 3 of 3 times.